Hey guys, hope that you're doing well. So again, the last couple of days we've been working with all these special types of angles, right? So all the angle relationships that we have, right? We have vertical angles, right? We have corresponding angles. We have alternate interior. And if we have alternate interior, we also have alternate exterior, right? And then the last one that we have is the same side interior angles, right? And again, the same side interior angles, which you guys have actually worked with and which you guys have realized over and over again, it's the only one that's different from all the other ones, because when it comes to all the other angles, all of the other ones, whether it's vertical, corresponding, alternate interior and alternate exterior, they're all congruent, right? Which means again, if one is 100 degrees, the other one's going to be 100 degrees. The only one that's different is the one that's same side interior, because same side interior, again, it's only one that adds up to 180 degrees. Two angles add up to 180, which we always refer to as supplementary, right? And now this information here, all of this is only true if the lines are ever parallel. Again, lines are parallel, they're never going to touch, they're never going to intersect. Whenever we're looking at parallel lines, we know that they're parallel because, again, this right here, even though it looks parallel, we don't know it's parallel. But whenever we're working with parallel lines, what it always needs is those arrows, right? Because if we have an arrow here and an arrow here, it refers to the fact that they're both parallel. And it doesn't have to be one, it could be two on each, as long as it's the same amount. Once those two are parallel, all of this information is true. But if we don't know that they're parallel, right? If they don't ever tell us this, or they don't tell us that they're parallel, we can't ever assume this. So now based on this, based on the fact that all four of these are congruent, that same side interior is going to be equal to 180, both angles, if they're parallel, this is what the whole lesson is going to be based on today, right? Because what we're going to work with, the other day we worked with actually figuring out what the angles were in terms of the relationship and their measures. Today we're going to apply all this to be able to actually figure out equations, set up equations, solve equations, all of that based on these relationships, right? So okay, you guys have been working with these angles for a while, right? So let's say I gave you something like this. Let's say that I gave you that this was x plus 80, right? 80 degrees. And let's say that this one here is 140 degrees. Okay, the first thing we need to know always, make sure that the lines are parallel, right? For any of these relationships to be valid, with the exception of vertical, all of this always needs to be parallel, right? Because vertical, regardless, whenever it's across from each other, it's always going to be congruent. We know that these are vertical, right? Because they're opposite of each other. So right now we have vertical angles, right? And we know automatically, whenever it's vertical angles, they're congruent, right? The fact that they're congruent, the fact that they're the same, tells us everything we need to know. Because now that we know that they're the same, if we know that they're the same, we know that this equals that, right? That this is the same as that. And if this equals that, we can write that, right? We can write that x plus 80, right? X plus 80, this equals that, equals 140. And again, it's that whole same idea, right? Where angle x plus 80, angle 140, since they're vertical, they're equal, they're congruent. Since they're congruent, they're equal, we just set them equal to each other. We know that x plus 80 equals 140. Because once you get that, then again, it's very simple to solve. Opposite of addition, you would do subtraction, right? Subtract 80, right? Cross that out, we have x equals 60 degrees. And again, always take into account, we're not saying that the angle itself is 60. We're just saying that x is 60, right? Because now if we were to do 60 plus 80, 60 plus 80 is 140. Same thing we had, right? And we said they had to be the same, they're the same. So that's the whole idea of what we're doing today. It's just being able to apply these relationships to set up equations and solve for them, right? It's all we're going to be working with right now. And it's just more practice, but even more so, you guys are really good when it comes to solving equations. So what I want to focus on more right now is just being able to set up these equations, right? So let's say that I had this angle right here. Let's say that this angle right here is 2m plus 10 degrees, right? And let's say that this is 100 degrees. Okay, first thing you want to realize, what kind of angles are they, right? So whenever they're on the same side and it opens up, we know that those are corresponding angles, right? They're corresponding. And what we know about corresponding angles is whenever we have corresponding angles, they're always congruent, right? So we know that this is going to be the same as that. So if this is the same as that, we write that. We know that 2m plus 10 equals 100 degrees, right? And the reason we write that, again, we're saying that 2m plus 10, this angle, is equal to 100, that angle. And we're saying that those two are equal because they're corresponding. Corresponding automatically means that they're congruent. If they're congruent, they're equal to each other, they're the same. And then again, once it comes to solving equations, which we'll practice in a few minutes, it would be getting rid of the 10 first and then getting rid of the 2. But again, first I want to focus on just being able to set up these equations. So again, we have that, right? I'm going to set up one more where I don't want to solve it. And then we are going to work on solving 2 of them. But again, if you get the overall concept of these angles and where we're setting them up, we've done practice already with solving equations that you guys are very comfortable with it. Let's say I had this, right? Let's say now that I had that this is x plus 40, right? Let's say that this is 2x plus 10. This is the one that sometimes people have issues with, right? So we see these two angles, right? They're both inside, right? And they're both on the same side. So if they're both inside on the same side, they would be same side interior, right? And again, the one thing that you got to keep in mind, same side interior angles, they are the only angles that add up to 180 degrees. They're the only angles that are supplementary. So if we know that those two add up to 180, it's exactly what we're saying. If we're saying these two add up to 180, we literally want to add those two up and set them equal to 180, right? So the way we set them up, again, same side interior, you add them up, set them equal to 180. So we do exactly what we're saying. We do x plus 40, right? X plus 40 plus 2x plus 10. So all we're doing is we're adding this angle and this angle, right? X plus 40 plus 2x plus 10 and setting it equal to 180. And the reason, again, we're setting it up to 180 is because we said it. When it's same side interior, they add up to 180. So if that's what it does, we have to add them up and set it equal to 180. Which again, this is all just practice, which we're going to do in a sec. Because when it comes to this, it's just combining like terms and then solving an equation, right? But now I actually want to do 2 where I set them up and I also solve them, right? But again, the issue with you guys, if you have an issue with this, it is in solving equations because you've done amazingly well with solving equations. It's just being able to see what it's supposed to look like, you know what I mean? And understand why the equations are where they are. But I do want to do 2 more examples of this just to get you guys comfortable with it. And then again, the whole fact of it is just getting to see what the angles actually are. And again, for all this, always make sure, guys, that the lines are parallel for these relationships to be true, right? So we have that, right? We now have, let's say that this here is going to end up being 2x minus 30, right? So that's 2x minus 30. I'm going to make this one here be 70 degrees, right? So we have 2x minus 30, we have 70. Again, always in the back of your mind, think, what kind of angles are these? So I'm looking at these two, right? They're both inside. They're both on different sides. One's on the left side of the transversal, the other one's on the right side of the transversal. So if they're inside on different sides, they're going to be alternate interior, right? Alternate interior angles. And again, always ask yourself, what do we know about alternate interior angles? Whenever it's alternate interior, they're both the same. They're both congruent. So if they're congruent, we set them equal to each other, right? We know that 2x minus 30 degrees equals 70. And again, we have that because we know when it's alternate interior, they're both the same. They're both equal. So set them equal. 2x minus 30 equals 70. Because now once you have this equation, it's just solving it out, right? So we have 2x minus 30. First thing we want to do is always get x by itself, isolate the variable, and anything that has to do with it we save for last. So we get rid of the 30. Opposite of subtraction is addition. So if we add 30 degrees to one side, we have to add 30 degrees to another side. The 30s eliminate. We're left with 2x equals 100, right? And again, I got 100 because 70 plus 30 equals 100. So right now we have 2x equals 100. Because once you have that now, again, you want to get x by itself. So opposite of multiplication, the inverse of multiplication is division. And if I divide this side by 2, gotta divide this side by 2, right? The 2's eliminate, and we're left with x equals 50 degrees. And again, we got 50 just because 100 divided by 2 is 50. There's our answer. And again, if you want to check it, you could. Because if I were to now substitute the 50 in, right? We know that 2 times 50 is 100. 100 minus 30 is 70. So they're both the same. They're both congruent. And again, the hardest part, it's not actually solving this. It's just being able to see the relationship of whether they're equal or whether they're going to add up to 180, right? And I'll do one more just to make sure you guys actually feel comfortable with it. You guys actually probably know already which one is going to be the last one that I'm going to do. So right now, again, I'm going to set this up, right? I'm going to say that this here is going to end up being 3x plus 40. Right? I'm going to make this be 2x plus 10. And that's it. Right? So this angle right there is 3x plus 40. This angle right there is 2x plus 10. I want to solve for x. So again, first figure it out. What we have in here, right? We have two angles that are both inside on the same side. So automatically they're same side interior, right? We have same side interior angles. And whenever we have same side interior angles, same idea, right? We know that they both add up to equal 180 degrees. So same side interior angles, it's the only one that's supplementary, adds up to 180. So if we're saying it adds up to 180, we want to add them up, right? We want to add those two up. So what we're going to do is we're going to write 3x plus 40, right? Plus 2x plus 10. And we're going to set it equal to 180 degrees. Because again, whenever it's supplementary, and whenever it's same side interior, they both add up, the 3x plus 40 plus the 2x plus 10 to give us 180, right? That's all it is, 3x plus 40, the top angle, 2x plus 10, the bottom angle, and when you add them up, adds up to 180 because it's same side interior. Because now with that, all it is, it's just combining like terms, right? So let's look at it. We have 3x, right? We can combine the 3x with the 2x, which is going to give us automatically 5x, right? So right there we have 5x. That's gone, right? When it comes now to combining what we have left, right? We have a positive 40. We have a positive 10, right? So if we have 40 plus 10, it's going to give us a positive 50, right? So again, all I did was 3x plus 2x gave us 5x. 40 plus 10 gave us 50, right? That's done too. Everything here that we could have combined, we can combine already, and we can't combine those because that has an x and that doesn't, equals 180, right? Because again, once you get to this, now it's the same step you guys have been doing every time you solve equations, right? First thing, before we deal with the 5, we want to get rid of the 50. Opposite of addition, we're going to subtract 50 from both sides, right? The 50s over here cancel out, so we're left with 5x equals 130, right? And now, once we do that, we have 5x equals 130. Opposite of multiplication is division. So divide that by 5, divide this by 5, right? The 5's here are going to cancel out. And once we actually solve for it, we know that 130 divided by 5 is going to end up giving us 26 degrees. And again, all I did to get 26 was I did 130 divided by 5, which gave us 26 degrees. And that's all it is, guys. And you can always check it too if you want to. You can always just substitute them in, because now if we wanted to substitute them, and this is all just doing mental math, is if we wanted to do 26 times 3, that would end up giving us 78, right? So that would be 78 plus 40 would give us 118, right? Again, doing this from my head. Now, if I want to substitute this here, and I'm not writing that there, I'm not saying that angle is 118, I'm just writing it there for space. Over here, if I wanted to do 2 times 26, gives us 52. 52 plus 10 gives us 62, right? And automatically, I still know that my mental math is correct, because if I look at these two, 118 plus 62 gives us 180, which tells me that I was right. But again, guys, hopefully this all helps. Realize whenever you're setting up equations, the equations are there to actually be analyzed, whether it's vertical, corresponding, alternate interior, alternate exterior, or same side. And the only one that adds up to 180 is same side interior. If it's any other relationship, always set the angles equal to each other. Again, good luck with this, okay guys? Take care.